Dear children, today we begin our next chapter. The name of the chapter is A Grain of Rice. Before we begin our chapter, let's get some idea about this chapter. An Indian folklore about clever young girl who outsmarts the greedy king through her knowledge of power of doubling. Actually, this is the content. The Raja offers to reward her, but all she asks for is one grain of rice, doubled each day for 30 days. The Raja is happy to complete, not realizing it amount to enough rice to feed her entire village. So now let's move to the chapter. Long ago in India, there was a Raja called Goba Gaphamnath. A Raja believed he was as wise and fair as Raja could or as Raja should be. The people in his province grew rice. Raja decreed that people must give all their extra rice to him. I promise you all that I will store the rice safely. The Raja said to the people so that in times of famine everyone has a supply of rice to eat and no one goes hungry. Actually, it's a folktale. It happened long years in India, ago in India. There was a Raja, his name was Goba Gabha Nath. Let's call him Raja. The Raja believed he was a wise and fair. He himself considered he is a wise man. The people in his province, the people in his village, in his area grew rice. The main earning was rice. Raja decreed. What does it mean? Now let's focus on these words. This is decreed. The word decreed is here, and the next word comes here famine. These are the two words here in this para. Long years ago, as I told you that this name is Raja, and the people who has cultivated rice, I promise you all that I will store the rice safe. So he himself given a promise to the people of his province that I will store your food grains safely. The Raja said to the people that so that in times of famine, what does it mean by famine? Famine means a situation in which people do not have enough food to eat. That is called famine. Decree means order officially province. Okay, order officially by province. Everyone has a supply of rice to eat and no one goes hungry. So during the time of hungry, I mean famine. Famine means a situation which may do not have enough food to eat. Those times I will provide you this rice during so you may not face any problems. Now, every year, Raja's rice collectors came to the farmers and carried away nearly all people's rice to the royal storehouse. What does it mean by storehouse is here? A storehouse can be underlined. Now let's underline. What does it mean by storehouse? Is a granary, can be called a granary. A storehouse can be a granary or a warehouse or a storeroom, whatever it may be. Okay. So every year Raja's rice collectors who was appointed by Raja to collect this rice to the storehouse collected the rice and kept it in the royal storehouse. For many years, the farmers had a good crop. The people gave nearly all their extra rice to Raja, and Raja's storehouse were always full. I mean, it was completely filled with rice. The people, meanwhile, were left with only enough rice to get by. One fateful year, a drought befell the kingdom as crops failed miserably. Severe famine and hunger broke out. Drought, implode. and miserably. There are three words in this para. And the first one is drought. What does it mean by drought? Implode. See, implode. The next one is miserably. Miserably. Now let's read. One day, so people were so happy in his province or in his country. One day, something has happened. One fateful year, something have happened in one year. A drought befell in the kingdom. So they faced a drought. What does it mean by drought? What does it mean by drought? A long period of no rain. So people doesn't have enough water to cultivate rice. Drought means no rain. Fell in the kingdom. As crops failed miserably. Crops failed miserably. What does it mean by miserably? What does it mean by miserably? In a manner that is bad condition. Okay, a bad condition. Severe famine and hunger broke out. Begin. Broke out means begin. The people had no rice. The people had no rice to give to the Raja. They had uh, and none to eat. So even they do not have rice to give to Raja, at the same time they do not have enough rice to eat. The Raja ministers implored him. What does it mean by implored? Implored means asked or beg for something. Your Highness, Your Majesty, let us open the royal storehouse and give the rice to the people as you promised. Now, all the ministers requested or begged for to the king, let us open the royal storehouse, the royal granary, the royal store, and let as you promised. No, cried the Raja, how do I know how long the famine will last? So Raja has said, no, how do I know? I don't know even how long the famine will exist. I must have the rice for myself, promise or no promise. It is the duty of people to ensure that their Raja does not go hungry. So it is the duty of people. The people have some right. People to ensure. What does mean by ensure? Now let's just read and know the meaning of ensure. Ensure means assure. Ensure means to make sure that the Raja does not go hungry. So it is the duty of the people that the Raja should not undergo any hungry. As time went by, people started dying hunger, but Raja would not give a single grain of rice. So he has not given a single grain of rice. One day Raja ordered a feast for himself and his courtiers. So what did he do? One day he has ordered for a feast, a function for himself and his courtiers. Then it seemed to him a Raja should indulge. See, now the next word is indulge. Let us underline this word here. Indulge in merrymaking now and then. What is indulge? To allow oneself to enjoy a particular pleasure. That is indulge. Even when the famine had left the people with no food to eat, they overcome the situation even though they do not have enough food to eat. A servant led an elephant from the royal storehouse to the palace. One day, a servant who led an elephant from the storehouse to the palace, carrying large sack of rice. So what did they do? They carried large sack of rice. Now it happened. Now here it shows that something had happened that time. One of the sack had a hole and rice tricked out of it. What does it mean by next word is tricked out? Here let's see. Tricked. Underline it. Tricked. And tricked out of it. What does it mean by tricked out of it? Tricked means fell slowly in a small numbers. A village girl named Bolly saw it. Quickly she jumped up and walked alongside the elephant, gathering the falling rice in her skirt. What? She was so smart. What does she do? She has collected all the falling rice uh, in her skirt. She was clever and began to make a plan. So she has decided to make a plan. Now let's see what is the plan. At the palace, a guard cried, "Halt, thief!" Where are you going with that rice? So one of the servant asked her, where are you going with that rice? I'm not a thief, Boli replied. This rice has fallen from one of the sack and I am going to return to Raja. So a clever answer was given by Boli that I'm not a thief, I'm not a robber. So I'm going to give this rice to Raja. When Raja heard about Boli's good deed, he called for her. Here comes the good deed means a favor or a help. I wish to reward you for returning what belonged to me. Raja Gobaham Nath told Boli, ask me for anything and you shall have it. So he has said that if suppose you ask something, I am ready to give you. Your Highness, said Boli, I do not reserve any reward at all. After all, it was your rights. I think I don't deserve anything from you. It is all belongs to you. But if you wish, you may give me one grain of rice. So she was so clever. What does she do? She told to him that if you are interested, please give me one grain of rice. Only one grain of rice, exclaimed the Raja. Surely you will allow me to reward you more plentiful as Raja should. Very well, said Bolly. If it pleases your highness, if you wish, if you are happy to give, you may reward me in this way. So she has planned to give him an idea. Said, if you are interested to give me more grains, do according to this. Today you will give me a single grain of rice, then each day each day for 30 days you will give me double rice you give me the day before. So it will be double. One it is one day it is one handful means it is double, or again it is double and double it goes. Thus tomorrow you will give me 2 grains of rice, next day 4, and it goes 30 for 30 days. So if it is 2, then it goes, then 6, 8, 10, it goes like that. This seems to be modest reward. What does it mean by modest? Now let's see the modest reward. The modest reward, not very large in size, not very large in size. Said the Raja, delighted the girl was satisfied with so little. She was so satisfied with the little she has, but you shall have it. So Boli was presented with a single grain of rice that day. The next day Boli was presented with 2 grains of rice, and following day she was presented with 4 grains of rice. So it was multiplied, isn't it? The ninth day Boli was presented with 256 grains of rice on the 10th day. So it was doubled. So the receiving grains was doubled. She had received 512 grains rice, enough for only a small handful. This girl is honest, but not very clever, thought the Raja. Raja thought that she is honest, but not very clever. Okay, some thoughts were going on in his mind. She would have gained more rice by keeping what fell in her skirt. One, the 12th day, Boli received 2048 grains for her handfuls. So, what happened in the 2000 when the 12th day? It was doubled, isn't it? More and more food grains she has received. One 13th day, on the 13th day, she received 4096 grains on of rice, enough to fill a bowl. See what happened? She was so clever. On the 16th day, Bholi was presented with becoming a bag containing 32,768 grains of rice. Altogether, she had enough rice for 2 bags. This doubling of adds to more than rice I expected, thought the Raja, but surely her reward won't amount much more. On the 20th day, Boli was presented with 16 more bags filled with rice. What Boli was presented, she got 16 more bags filled with rice. On 21st day, she received 1 million. So, see the condition 48,576 grains of rice, enough to fill a large sack. On the 24th day, Boli was presented with 8 million. So, it is again doubled, isn't it? Then on the 27th day, 32 Brahma bulls were here. Let's see the what does it mean by Brahma bulls. See, it means a breed of Indian bulls. Okay, were needed to deliver 60 large sacks of rice. Raja Gobaham Nath was deeply troubled. So finally he got troubled. One grain of rice has grown a great indeed, he thought, but I shall fulfill the reward to end, as Raja should. So Raja decided to fulfill the need. On the 29th day, Boli was presented with the contents of two royal storehouses. So, what happened on the 30th, 29th day? Contents. What does it mean by contents of two royal storehouse? Contents here comes things that are contained in something. She has got all the grains. The grains it has contained two royal storehouse. He can't imagine how much it is. On the 29th and the final day, 256 elephants crossed the village. When on the last day and 29th day, how many elephants crossed? 256 elephants crossed the village carrying the contents, the bags of the last four royal storehouse. 536 million 870,912 grains of rice. So they carried all the grains. How many elephants? 200. Sorry, for 256 elephants. Altogether, Boli had received more than 1 billion grains of rice. So finally, what happened? Boli received, the girl who had received more than 1 billion grains of rice. The Raja, see, what happened now? The Raja had no more rice to give. So finally, he doesn't have rice to give to Boli. And what will you do with this rice? Said Raja with a single sigh. Now that I have none. So what are you going to do with? I have nothing to give. I shall give it to all the hungry people, said Bolly, and I shall leave a sack of rice for you too, if you promise from now on to take only as much as rice you need. So, what was the reply from her dad? I'm going to give all these ruffled grains to the people who suffer from hunger, and I shall give a sack of rice you too if you promise from now on to take only as much as rice you need. I promised, said the Raja, and for the rest of his days, Raja was truly wise and fair as Raja should be. So finally, what happened? So he has stopped his command order. What was the order? He himself was planned to store all the grains in his granary. So he has stopped that decision, and he became a wise and fair as Raja should be. He became a wise king or a wise and fair king for his rest of his tenure. I hope you understand this chapter. This is the content of this chapter. Please try to read and write down this word meaning in your notebook, so it would be easy for to understand the chapter very clearly.